All right, back down to Chiefs Pit. Timmy Petty, Mark Petty, Ritchie Petty, and Petty Brothers. That's what we are. And brotherly love. We've been through a lot of good times, some hard times, and some aggravating times together, but we've always managed to stay together, ain't we?
Incredibly. Here we sit.
Yeah. 50-year-olds, 60-year-olds, and we're still getting along.
We sit in the same room and stand each other.
That's right.
Pretty much, yeah.
But Lee and Julie, they started it back in growing up together and working together. And I guess they had a little brotherly love amongst themselves. That generation didn't express themselves too much, did they?
Not that I recall much, but they would express it the other way.
They must have
from the stories we've heard.
Right, yeah, but they must have really loved each other because
yeah.
they stayed together and worked together for a long time. But then they went their separate ways. But it comes back to Daddy and Richard. And Daddy was really protective of Richard all his life, and we've probably talked about it. That you went to Richard, you had to go through Mars first, didn't you?
Absolutely.
But reading some of the earlier encounters and hearing Daddy talk and different ones, when they were growing up, Daddy had the polio, and Richard was real protective of Daddy because he had that limp and had his eye troubles and stuff. But if people made fun of Daddy, Richard would step in there and take up for him.
It probably started from the first day that they realized that Daddy had something going on, because he went in there to get him out of the bed, and Daddy was trying to get out of bed, but he done fell, right? And he's like, "Come on, get up, let's go, we gotta go."
Well, that's what they said, that he crawled in there, and Grandmother was like, "What you on the floor for?"
Right, and he did the same thing. He was, "Come on, we got to go outside and play."
Well, I was reading this in this book here. This is '92, and but anyways, this little, I thought this kind of summed it up. It said, "This is Daddy speaking of Richard." It said, "The only way I can sum up the whole thing is we were kids together, we've been in business together, and been friends all the way through. I've loved him when I was a kid, I loved him when we raced, and I still love him." I mean, right there says it all, don't it?
Man dedicated his whole life around the whole business and him, so yeah, I'd say it does.
And
Says it, yeah.
Yeah, and then even there was some times when we went separate in business, and that's any family. You have your business and you do separate things, but I'm telling you, Mars Petty loved his brother till he died. I know he did, because I sat there and listened to him tell it day after day, didn't you?
And vice versa.
Yes.
Richard loved our Daddy. He looked after Daddy all his life. I mean, they one way, shape, or form.
That is, there's a video of Daddy there in '85 when they were going to Daytona. No, it was 84. 84.
Yeah, been 84.
84, and Kyle took over Petty Enterprises, and Richard went to run for Curb. And Daddy, he's talking in that video. He's saying, me and Richard could always get along, but when you throw in this one and that one, it kind of aggravates this one. He just said he was going to step aside because of his love of his brother and see how things would go. Remember that?
Certainly do. Like it was yesterday.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And, we go back a little further. Was it 72 in Wilkesboro? When
I'd say somewhere around
I think it was
there.
in there, and Bobby left Richard left Bobby in the fence, and then that was at Wilkesboro, and he was running for junior. And the fans come out of the stands wanting to fight Richard. And Daddy picked up that helmet and finished. Do you remember that?
Yeah, well, I remember looking at the picture.
Well, that's what I meant.
Yeah, I don't remember the actual incident, but we've all heard the stories, and yeah, for sure.
Oh, yeah. But and it's still sad for me to watch. They did that documentary back in a few years back, that Petty Blue, and Daddy was an older man, and he sat down here in this shop, and they was interviewing him. And he's going through that 83 thing. People trying to bring up stuff and this and that. And he just sat there, man. He said, "Man, I love my brother. I ain't got no beef with him."
Right.
And
it hurts. I mean, I'd be a dang old liar if I said it didn't hurt. But that's your path laid out for you, and that's the road I got led down. I still love my brother. I ain't got no beef with him.
No matter how people tried to goad him into saying something.
No, he wasn't. But they got along. I don't understand where it's coming from.
Well,
sure. I never seen them not get along. And when they would, even all through everything, when them two was together,
Well, you really didn't go interrupt.
Well,
but it's more like the people around them didn't get along more
that's
than
right.
them two didn't
That's
get
right.
along.
But you go back to Lee and Richard and Morris. When they come into a room, you cleared it out. Them three was there to talk.
Oh yeah.
You didn't. And then there at the end there was Morris and Richard. When they got to talking, you got out of there. Them two, even though
don't
I
know
was
about
his
you,
son,
but I was instructed to
yeah,
go
well, I
the
was
other
too.
way.
But I was gonna say, even though I was his son, I'm sure he loved me to death, and y'all too the same way. He still had a special place for his brother, that he would probably take his side over ours any day, wouldn't he?
Yeah, but it was respect.
For sure.
It was respect to get out of them. Those
Oh,
guys.
No,
That's how we was
wouldn't-
raised,
Yeah,
wasn't it?
and the same way today, you try to follow that same path for sure.
Well, and that's probably why we always was able to work together. I mean, like you say, you had your spits and your spats,
Oh, yeah.
but they set the pattern.
Well, the petty brotherly love often imitated but never duplicated.
No, we did have a couple of instances when we were trying to get Richie's little Dakota pickup truck running, and we were both trying to show each other what we didn't know about getting it started. And after quite a bit of gas and turning it over and starter getting hot, and the thing backfires and catches me on fire. Had it not been for him, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm gonna chalk that up to brotherly love.
If it wasn't been for me, you wouldn't have been there to start with, because my
Yeah,
truck's
but
won't give me trouble.
I don't know. You can say it any
No,
way
it
you
was-
want to, but yeah, that was.
That was a bad day. Timmy was pouring a little gas in the carburetor, and it backfired.
I'd say it was a lot,
Oh, it was, and
but it was going to fire one way or the other. And it
but
did.
I will say for our dad, because he had some close calls working up here in the old shop, where they were working on a
He actually got blowed out of the shop.
right. They blowed up and blowed him out. So from then on, in our shops, we always had a fire extinguisher in hand somewhere near.
yeah.
So that was what saved Timmy. There was a fire extinguisher right there, and
With
I
gasoline
don't-
on
I
your
don't-
stop,
I
drop,
don't
and
even-
roll don't work.
I don't even remember what happened, but I remember there it was. I put you out. So
Yeah.
just that
And
quick.
you ended up being a little late for work next week.
Well, I had on my way to the hospital. Mark calls my supervisor at the time and says, "Yeah, Timmy probably won't be at work tomorrow. Or is he going to be? He's all right. He'll be a little late tomorrow." And what, two and a half months
Yeah,
later, I
yeah.
show back up.
Yeah,
to
but in
work.
my defense, when all this went on, I wasn't here.
All right, and
I was on my way home from
and
work.
I don't remember a lot about it.
And when I showed up, they were shoving you in an ambulance. So
and you're going, "What's wrong?" I said, "I'm just got a little burnt."
Yeah, well, that definitely was not a good day.
Yeah, that was chalk that up on the idiot pill.
well,
Well, that's part of working together and being together all the time. You're gonna have your ups and downs, and I say that was one of our downs.
Well, one involving you, which was pretty scary, was I guess Talladega, right? When a couple of them went over the wall, and we thought it was you because we couldn't see
Oh
it.
yeah,
We're in
yeah.
the pits.
Oh yeah,
oh yeah, when
And
Jimmy
then,
Horton went
and then
over,
your radio got clipped.
yeah,
So that was
yeah.
pretty narrow feeling right there.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, I know you was.
Oh
saying-
no, it was scary. It was a
Here
scary
that's
moment.
brought out the second caution of the day.
There's Stanley Smith in the middle in the black car. They were running three abreast going into that turn, Ken. There's the car number one of Rick Mask.
There is one car that has gone over the wall, as you see.
And tell you, so if Rex, and I wrecked a car down at Caraway
I wasn't there
back
that
in
night.
88.
Yep.
And I flipped it about 5 times down the backstretch. And somebody had filmed it over there in the stands, but you can see Mark, the fear in his eyes, coming running.
Well, same way when the King was wrecking at Darlington and
Yes.
Going to crash on the home stretch. A car upside.
King flipped several times,
Right.
and then Daddy's out there trying to take this fire extinguisher from the fireman.
Yep.
Afraid he's going to take the oxygen away from him, and
But
not
Daddy-
knowing if he's alive or dead.
And then there's Daddy, like I said, with the polio, and he's running up pit road and gets out there one of the first ones, and Richard's hanging out of the car, and then everybody thought he was passed away.
Yes.
But Daddy jumps in the back of the ambulance and goes to the hospital with him, and then they interview him
Yeah,
afterwards.
we got to show that interview,
Yeah,
and Mark picks on him on. It's kind of the same way. Well, he's all right. He's
Yeah.
gonna be all right. He's just a little bruised up.
bloodied up a little bit.
He got his
But that's the
face all
same
bloodied
way.
up.
You don't. You're scared to death.
Maurice Petty, Richard's brother, riding in the back of the ambulance as we see it going into the track hospital. Alongside me is Richard's brother, Maurice. Maurice, it happened so fast, I doubt if you know what happened, but what is Richard's condition, could you tell?
Well, he's laying there broken now. Looks like his left arm. They see the sprung wheel bladder broke, and they cutting his uniform away to get into it. His head's beat on, bloody, and his eyes hurting a little bit. He'll be all right, though.
But he is talking.
Yeah, he's talking. He knows everybody.
You look pretty beat yourself.
Yeah, long run.
He was too.
Well, I can tell you this from experience. It's a lot scarier watching the races from the pit road and your brother in the car than it is in the car.
Yeah,
I mean,
no doubt.
he can run through the wall and not phase you as a driver. But as watching your family member, yes, it's pretty pretty
Go
scary.
ahead.
And you remember that? I remember watching. Was it '88 Daytona 500
Yes,
when
with
Richard
Daddy.
had that bad wreck, and we were at the house watching the race with Daddy. We wasn't at
And
Daytona,
Daddy stood up on the edge of the seat.
but you could just see that.
All the quiet come over
the
the room.
quiet, and you just
The concern.
He was just so
Because
feared.
it was a
Well, I mean, here he was in Level Crossing. They're in Florida, and he don't know what's going on.
it
He
was
just-
a brutal
Well,
wreck.
you speaking of that one, grandfather is at the race, right? And he's I think that's the one they interview him at the hospital. He's like, oh, he'll be able to go plow tomorrow.
Did he really?
Yeah, he all right.
Well, I went in there. It looks like somebody spun down there, and somebody hit him right in the back, and it drove him right in the fence. And I just got through talking to him, and he hurt his foot, but I believe he'll be able to plow tomorrow. You think he'll be able to plow? They're going to put him right back on the farm. Now, boy, I'll tell you, if that isn't humor or I don't know how you do it, you fellas. I think you'll be able to plow tomorrow. Okay, well, we're certainly happy that you
I faintly
So,
remember
see, I
that.
come from a long line of them when I told JD he was going to be late for work.
No, it's and it's just Go ahead.
Well, no,
Sorry.
that was just funny that, like you said, it's more concerning
tell you.
watching it. But here was a funny thing.
Go ahead.
And I remember we run that ARCA race down there in Atlanta in '91, and we came back and helped Butch Mock and them with the. No, that was '92. We come back in '93 and helped Butch Mock and them with that 75 car, and you was changing tires and we was helping with the pits. But anyway, they dropped that green in Atlanta, and that's when the old Atlanta racetrack used to be right there on pit road. And them suckers took off. And I looked at Mark, I said, my God, them guys are flying. And he said, well, that was you back in November.
Yeah.
It's true.
Seemed a lot faster right up against the pit wall than it did in the car.
Another scary moment while we're talking about brotherly events here is when they first come up with the roof flaps.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were going to make the Daytona 500, and you get turned coming off of 4 there.
Yeah.
That was a scary moment.
Oh, it
because
was.
you didn't know what was going to happen, and your car was up in the air, and we could see it.
Whoa, car out of control. That is Ritchie Petty. Trying to get it back, just misses the wall and slides back into the grass.
Yeah, that grass is wet, so he's going to take a little slide there, but he was very fortunate not to hit the wall.
Now that was a ride. How close he came.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's like that whole week.
Right.
That whole week is when Neil Bonnet had got killed and Rodney Ward got killed. So everybody was on edge.
Oh, it's pins and needles.
And so even in the drivers' meeting on them 125s, the Rusty Wallace and people like that, they were concerned. And you didn't see them veterans with that kind of concern. So yeah, when here I come down the front straightaway backwards and almost hit that wall. Yeah, I'm sure it was scary for y'all, but for me, it happened so quick.
No,
I was just worried about getting back in the race.
I can remember asking Uncle Richard one time about a particular wreck. I can't recall, but that was his statement. It had happened so quick, you don't have time to think about it. When you're in the car, now you're out there watching it, time stops, and you're like, especially when we couldn't talk to you.
Well, the
Yeah,
Talladega
Talladega that day.
Talladega, and I stretched so far it broke the radio cord,
And it's like,
and it kind of, for a minute there, it knocked me
and
out.
I don't even remember what was said. I mean, it's just like a blank to me.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, the spotter, we had Bill Frazier that day. I guess somebody told him it was okay, and radio to y'all was okay.
Well, he was telling us it was you over the
Oh,
wall.
was it really?
Well, he didn't know.
Yeah, no,
he
because you couldn't see it so
Yeah.
far.
No offense, but I mean that's what we were hearing.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh yeah. Anyway, what else we got for brotherly love
that's
stuff?
we probably got a whole bunch more, but we've been through a lot of good times, and like I said, often imitated but never duplicated. So I hope we have another 50 years together.
I don't think I'm gonna make it.
Time will tell.
Leave us some comments and like and subscribe.